What's up, everybody? Welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about this Squier Classic Vibe 60s P bass, all the things I like about it, things I don't like about it, and why I'm ultimately getting rid of it. Check it out. All right, so before I get too into it, I need to tell you a little bit about this specific bass. So I got this used on Guitar Center's website, which, as we know, you're going to find some surprises when they get here that way. This one in particular had a few surprises for me. So one, it came with these Seymour Duncan quarter pounders in here, which are great. I'll talk a little bit more about those. And it also came with this HiMass bridge, which maybe not so great. But I'll still talk about the things that are kind of inherent to the Squier Classic Vibe 60s line. I'll start with those things that you'll find on any of these 60s P basses. We'll start kind of at the top and work our way down, starting with the neck. The neck profile is definitely a thinner C, which I know some people like. I am more of a fan, if I'm gonna have a C-shaped neck, I would rather have just kind of a thicker C, feel like it's more of a handful, or if it's gonna be thinner, to me it's just I'd rather have a D shape, because then your thumb has something flat to rest on. A thin C is kind of somewhere in between for me, where it feels like you're playing on kind of the handle of a Louisville Slugger baseball bat, and your thumb can never really get anchored in. That's just me. I know a lot of people don't like when a P bass neck is too thick. Overall, on the neck, shape-wise, if you like the thinner shapes, this is going to be good for you. If you like a little more of a handful like me, maybe not the best for you. Now, the neck does have a thicker polyurethane finish. So for those of you that aren't familiar with that, it's this kind of sticky, plasticky finish, which on guitar necks means that when your hand is dry, it's going to be kind of sticky. When your hand starts to sweat, it's going to start getting slippery. Some people, that's a deal breaker. Some people, it's not. Aesthetically, some people specifically want that because it gives that kind of shine, which you can even see a little bit. So if you're into that, you can keep that. If you like the aesthetics, but you want more functionality, a lot of people, myself included, will kind of sand this down with like a sanding block or steel wool or something like that. So depending on how much you weigh that in your decisions about instruments, that'll be an important thing to kind of consider with this one too. Kind of in the color of the neck, this thing has a beautiful tint to it. I'll try to get some other angles in here so you can actually see it. But as we know, maple can come in a lot of different colors and shades and things, and even the finish on it can kind of affect that. I think there's a lot of different ways maple can look good. I think this kind of really dark caramely tinted shade is one of those many ways, and I feel like especially it looks good with the Olympic white tortoiseshell combo. It's actually why I got this bass. When I saw it, I saw the headstock peeking out. I saw the really dark fretboard. Great. Love that. They don't do that like they used to anymore, it seems like. And then, the white and the tortoiseshell. Moving on to the build quality of this thing. It's built really well. Tuners work perfectly with the strings on or off, which is a weird thing I've noticed with some of my instruments. Some of them work fine with the strings on, but not off, and vice versa, which to me is always kind of a red flag. But this thing works well. If you're tuning your bass with no strings, you'll be fine. The nut is cut perfectly. I don't think about it, which is a good thing with that sort of hardware. You don't want to be thinking about one of those, because if you are, it's probably because it's not doing its job. No sharp edges on the frets or anything like that. Feels great. The only thing about it is on just the A string and just the 15th fret up, there's a little bit more of a clack or kind of a buzz that I feel like you don't really get on the other strings. When I put my ear next to it, it's honestly hard to tell how much of that might be coming from the bridge too, which kind of goes back to my thoughts on this HiMass bridge. I definitely won't be itching to put that on something in the future, the same way that I am these Seymour Duncan quarter pounders. I think these sound great. The bridge seems, hit or miss. So that's really the only build quality thing. And again, I'm not even sure how much of that is inherent to this instrument versus the upgrades that somebody did afterwards. So overall, it's a great playing instrument, stays in tune up the neck. Definitely one of those things where if I mess up, I have to blame it on myself. I can't be like, oh, this fret is off or anything like that. Definitely leaves it up to me, which is a good place for an instrument to be. Okay, so moving on to some of the things that are unique to this bass. So again, this isn't necessarily going to speak to what you would get off the rack with one of these things, because somebody put a lot of care into this thing before I got it. It's in impeccable condition. I don't see any signs of wear, and it came with all these upgrades, so somebody really cared about this thing. But I guess that's one of the joys of buying used from Guitar Center. Sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail. In this case, it worked out. But these Seymour Duncan quarter pounders are great. I think they sound massive and not lacking on mid-range, which I feel like is normally the critique that I'd heard from them. I never played them before. Most of my P-bass style basses are Ibanez kind of thing, so I'm used to that kind of modern, more scoop sound. So coming from those, it sounds like it's got a lot of mid-range. Again, you compare this to an actual like 60s style P-bass, maybe more scooped. Hard to say. Let me know what you guys think with the sound samples in here, but I think they sound great. This is one of those things where I don't know if this is unique to this bass or if it came out of the factory this way. It's a very aged-looking Olympic white. Maybe a good thing for you, may not. To me, it ventures on the mayonnaise side of things a little too much. So I wouldn't mind if it was a little brighter, but again, this may have just been left out in the sun. Who knows what journey this thing had. Moving on to the bridge, there's this Fender HiMass bridge. I'm not of the mind that I would be able to tell a difference in somebody playing a certain type of bridge. I mean, definitely not blind, even like a side-by-side. I honestly don't know if I would be able to tell. When I hear a song on the radio, zero chance. I'm going to be like, oh, that dude didn't use his HiMass bridge. So on that front, I've always thought that bridge upgrades are, one of those things that you'll get probably marginal benefit from compared to like a pickup upgrade, other electronic stuff, or even just kind of getting it set up well to play. But with this specific case, I've actually kind of been underwhelmed. Sometimes there's a little bit of a rattle, which you can't always replicate. May have more to do with the installation of this. But with this one in particular, it's one of those things where it seems like it was somebody spent money on it, at best unnecessarily, at worst in a way that kind of sets it back. All right, so to kind of wrap up, I'll start with visuals since those are the most important thing with any instrument, obviously. Maple, beautiful on this. Rosewood fretboard, beautiful. Olympic white, little yellow for me. Some people like that. So if that's your thing, then, overall this thing gets a pretty good grade on aesthetics. Sound-wise, again, sort of hard to say in a lot of ways since the pickups have been upgraded. What I can say about these quarter pounders is they're great. I'll definitely be looking into swapping out some of my other basses pickups with those, like my Ibanez. I think that could be a good way to make those Ibanezes sound a little more like a classic P-bass, it seems like, after my experience with this. So I will definitely be interested in those in the future. Playability-wise, You know, if you like the thinner C shape, this is going to be easier for you than a regular P bass. If you're like me, where you want a little more to grab onto, to kind of anchor your thumb to, I found that this one just made my hand cramp and kind of think about what my hand was doing a lot more than I had to with other basses. So final judgment on this bass. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm ultimately getting rid of it. But it really doesn't have anything to do with build quality or sound, because those are great on this instrument. Really what it comes down to is comfort. The thinner kind of neck just never meshed with me. And what I've found is, even though I thought sound would be the most important thing and whether or not I keep an instrument or play it a lot, the more that I played, the more I realized that if an instrument's not comfortable, it's going to sit there. It's just going to build up dust. That's me. Because I don't want there to be any barrier between what I hear in my head and what's coming out other than my ability. If I feel like there are other things in the way, like my hand is just cramping or the string's like not where I expect it to be, I just will end up gravitating towards instruments that I'm more comfortable on and use the EQ to make it sound closer to the way I want. So really not a lot of complaints about this bass as a line, and you may even like the way this bass is built more than a typical P bass. A little thinner in this direction, but still keeps that kind of P bass string spacing. Well, there you have it, folks. You've heard everything I have to say and play about the Squier Classic Vibe 60s P bass. If you like what you saw, be sure to like and subscribe. It's actually the first video on this channel where I plan to do bass, drums, guitar content, kind of mixing things together too. So comment down below. Let me know the sort of stuff that you all want to see. I want to make it as useful and entertaining as possible, as well as learn everything I can. So I appreciate y'all's support. I'll see you next time.